Good afternoon, everyone. Allison Skalberg here, Consolidated Planning Group. We've got an awesome webinar for you today. We are glad that you have joined us. For those of you that are joining for the first time, I always go through a few little housekeeping items. Today we are in webinar mode, and that means that we can't see you or hear you, but we know you're here and we're glad that you're here. And you are invited to put any questions that you have throughout this presentation in the chat box. Today's presentation is being recorded, and everyone that is registered for today is going to get a copy of today's slides and a link to the recording. And then furthermore, all of our past recordings live on the Consolidated Planning Group YouTube channel. Consolidated Planning Group is a holistic special needs financial planning firm. We're nationally certified as Social Security advisors, members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and chartered special needs consultants. Our whole firm is dedicated to working with families just like yours, or families that you serve if you're a professional joining us today, in planning for the future of a loved one with a disability. We help to understand when and how to apply for public benefits, what public benefits your loved one might be eligible for. We answer questions like, how much money do I need to fund a special needs trust? We help families set up ABLE accounts, put lifetime protection plans in place. We do a lot of transition planning, of kind of transitioning into adulthood and what's next after school. And so if you've not met with us in the past, we invite you to meet with us. We always offer free personalized consultations at CPG. It costs you nothing to learn a little bit more about us. We want to learn a little bit more about you, answer any questions that you may have. I myself am a parent to multiple kids, adult children with disabilities. And so what I can say, our webinars and our YouTube channel and everything was just really born out of my own frustration on why is everything that we do so hard. Everything is, as a parent, you feel like if I say this or if I do this, I have something in the wrong buckets, I'm going to mess everything up. And so we help provide clarification on that. And our YouTube channel you can subscribe to for free. There are hundreds, I think there's over 500 webinars on planning for special needs. If you can think of a topic, it's probably out there, and we've taken a deeper dive in it. And the point of that is really to just empower you as a parent, as a caregiver, as a professional that's serving families that have disabilities, just to empower you that there is help out there for you. So that this is complicated. It's not you. It is complicated, but there's definitely help out there for you. So today we are here. We are here with Hope for Three, and we are also here with Armando Bernal. We have hosted webinars with both of them multiple times, and it's always such a pleasure to be back with them. So before we dive in, I'm going to have Alondra talk to us a little bit about Hope for Three. Hope for Three is an awesome organization, and I'm excited for you to share that for people that are joining today that maybe have never heard of Hope for Three. So tell us a little bit more about your organization, Alondra.
Thank you, Allison. My name is Alondra, and I'm the Programs and Volunteer Coordinator at Hope for Three. Definitely honored to be part of this important conversation, today's special webinar hosted by Consolidated Planning Group. A little bit of Hope for Three. Hope for Three, we are dedicated to raising awareness, acceptance, and action in providing resources and supporting families throughout their autism journey. While we do not provide direct services, our mission is to bridge the gap by fostering community, empowering families, and creating educational opportunities, just like today's event. We are an organization inspired by a family like yours, as the mom's name is Hope, who has 3 autistic triplets, hence the name Hope for Three. We are proud to serve the Fort Bend County community, by offering a variety of resources, including programs, gatherings, volunteer opportunities, teen holiday events, and financial assistance. We invite you to become part of our community by following us on Facebook or by visiting our website at www.hopefor3.org. A special thank you to Consolidated Planning Group for hosting this webinar and for their continued partnership in empowering families and raising awareness.
Certainly our pleasure, Alondra. Thanks for sharing a little bit about that. Guys, check out their website. They have multiple events throughout the year. for kids. And I know that one of my kids volunteered for the Teen Huddle. So there are some volunteer hours available for Teen Huddle and things like that. So they got a lot of cool stuff going on. So definitely check out their website and their Facebook page. So Armando, every time you talk to us, we are inspired and we feel hope and it's pretty exciting. So we're excited to have you here with us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your story. We can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Armando Bernal, as was stated here. I'm a board certified behavior analyst by trade. And Meredith had just reminded me, actually, a member of Allison's staff, that I'm also something that we'll probably be discussing at a later time, a certified sleep specialist as well. So I'm able to work with individuals on the spectrum that are having difficulty with sleep. I know that's a really big, important thing for a lot of families. And so in addition to that, I've also been a special education teacher. So there's a wide variety of things that I can discuss on. I'll go into my intro a little bit further on the next slide here. But today we'll be discussing how I perceive the world, and the reason why I feel like this can be justified to speak on is the fact that I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Doctors told my mother that I might as well learn sign language because I was never going to be able to speak, right? And if that's the case, I wouldn't be here speaking today. I wanted to make sure that I can be at this time somebody that can be a good model for individuals that are needing that kind of support. So this doctor told my mother that, best of luck to you. He's going to need to learn sign language. You're going to have to take care of him the rest of his life. And my mother looked at the doctor and then looked at my father and my sister after he left the room and said, I don't know what he's talking about, but that boy is not living with me past the age of 18. And she was able to use this as kind of an inspiration for herself to understand the belief that uh, if I can be given the kind of support that can be provided through a family, through guardians, through professionals, much like a lot of the individuals that are here today, then the hope is that I can be able to one day take care of myself. And so a lot of questions that I get asked are typically going to be, well, did you take ABA therapy, other kinds of physical therapy, occupational therapy, something, speech therapy, to better support? Other than some speech therapy that was given by the public school system, I went to HISD. We didn't have money for any of these other kinds of therapies. And so my mother did, though, have access to a free public library and some change in her pocket to take the public transit bus system to the public library. And so while she was there, she was able to find different kinds of books about autism, but they were about a really medical jargon was a part of them. But she did find one book in particular that was focused on a child on the spectrum, a teenager, if you will, that was able to go sailing with his father, and the father would always take him sailing, and they really enjoyed that. That was their kind of their bonding time. To a point, though, that one morning that the father was about to get his boat ready to go out into sea, that he couldn't find his son. And he was very worried, very stressed out, and comes to find out that on the lake that they were on, the father was able to locate his son in the boat, and he was sailing the boat on his own. He was able to teach him minor things at the time, but for the most part, this individual was just kind of learning as he went on. And my mother took that as a motivation for her to say, if this child is able to do sailing without really much support, then why can't my child do these things? And it was that kind of belief system where they treated me just like anybody else, where I was able to eventually have a life for myself, becoming a special education teacher, working with individuals on the spectrum, as well as their parents, and parents more specifically that were told the same thing that my mother was, that their child's life was going to be over before it even began. And she was, through that kind of conversation with these parents, I started to realize there has to be more that I could do than becoming a special education teacher. And eventually that would consist of me becoming a board certified behavior analyst and working directly with these individuals in a more specific lens that could be given typically in the school system. But even so, with this specific lens, I was then still having to speak to many of the individual parents that had the same kind of story. And I said, there has to be more, there has to be more. And it came along 2020, I became a podcast host, although I think a lot of people at that time became podcast hosts. But in 2020, I started interviewing other individuals on the spectrum to try and provide a sense of idealism for these parents to understand that just because a child has this diagnosis does not mean by any point at all that this is all that they can possibly do, right? And so I would interview individuals that were Elvis impersonators, TikTok stars, different influencers, photographers, soccer players, different things like that. And I believe the podcast may still be up and running, but that inspired me to try and do more. Eventually, doing things like this, becoming an advocate for other individuals, eventually an international speaker, speaking in places like Canada, South Africa, Pakistan, different areas such as this, and then eventually, finally, founding my company, Autism International Consulting. I believe Allison and myself both shared our Instagram that you're more than welcome to follow, where we were able to provide supports. There was no limit to what my company, Autism International Consulting, can do. We work with all ages, from the ages of 18 months all the way up to 90 years old. We stop at 90 because after 90, people are just all done. They don't want to learn anything new, so they're good with it. But we're able to work with these individuals for individual plans. For my littles, we may focus more on listening skills, communication skills. For my teens and adults, we focus on social skills, job skills, interview skills, dating skills, really anything that can be possible. And now, because of the belief from my own family, I've been able to instill this same kind of belief in the children, in the parents that we are working with, to ensure that everyone feels as supported as possible and have this belief that the diagnosis is not what makes a person who they are, but rather what happens after this diagnosis. So as we continue forward into the next slide here, we'll see a little bit more about me. Allison, did we have a question or
I
anything?
just want to say that you're awesome, and it is so encouraging to hear this. You know, here we have a person on the spectrum themselves, and that has, you know, was never even going to talk, and let's make plans. And not only you have multiple advanced degrees, your own business, and you are just instilling what you know in others and giving other people hope. So anyway, I just think it's a big deal, and I just wanted to say, yay, you. It's exciting to see your growth and speaking internationally. Not only is he, you know, he was never going to speak, and you know, a podcast and all of these presentations and speaking internationally is such a huge deal and such a huge accomplishment. So you're pretty awesome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But funny enough, actually today I was just invited to speak at a conference. If anyone's interested in looking it up, it's called Stone Soup Conference, and it's a Canadian conference. This one is going to be specifically for, a webinar, so a lot of people are able to join this. But all the proceeds that go from this conference goes to individual Canadians that are unable to receive therapy otherwise. So it's something definitely for everyone to look into. This is something that I was invited to today, and I'm trying to share the news about that as well.
You know, one other thing that you said that I think is awesome too is that, you know, your family didn't have any money. So
Mhm.
you had all of this without having financial favor. And so, I mean, I know that there are a lot of families out there that may be struggling, some not so much. But, you know, kind of knowledge is power. And once your mom was, you know, armed with the knowledge, then she took charge to be a game changer. And so I think that message speaks loud and clear. You don't have to be a millionaire to get the help and to grow and to meet your loved one where they are. And I think that's a really powerful message as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something too I didn't mention about my company. So my company is a family organization. My partner in this is my sister. Our receptionist is my mother. The reason why is that she did customer service her entire career. And so she wanted to participate in this as well. And my wife is in HR. And so we try to really have our parents that we're working with and our patients understand like we get it. We're a part of this too. We're a part of the community. We live in the same area, much like anybody else, right? So that's something we try to do. So some areas that we're going to try and learn from here today is going to just have the question be answered. Why are we here today? Getting everyone on the same page, having everyone understand that we are a tribe here. We're able to work together. I don't know necessarily if we are in this webinar mode. I see that we can see participants, which is awesome. So as everyone can see here, there are other people just like you that are going through very difficult issues, very difficult concerns, and we're able to hopefully support one another through these kind of webinars. We are going to be discussing treatment opportunities, our growth for neurodivergence, as well, and what we can learn from that. Having hopefully a mindset change as well, discussing this kind of stereotypical kind of belief that just because a person is diagnosed with autism, it means that they can't really surmount to anything in their life. And hopefully, having this belief that no, that's not true, they can accomplish really anything they set their minds to, so long as they have a good support system behind them. Taking any kind of chance regarding opportunities, and finally, just a general viewpoint on how living today has impacted me and hopefully impacted each one of you as well. We can continue to the next slide here. So why are we here today, right? We want to focus on this transparency as we continue on. We're going to see just a couple of reasons that people are going to be here, right? We want to make sure that our children are able to talk. We want to make sure that they're able to do a couple of things. On the next slide, we're able to view that, right? We want our children to be independent. There's a lot of different reasons why we may be here. I'm sure if we're able to chat as well, we would talk about these things, right? I hear about it a lot of the times from parents. I've had parents that come to me, especially at our company, Autism International Consulting, say things like, I really want my child to be able to sit down and enjoy a meal with us. I really want my child to be able to have a conversation with his sister, his brother, her sister, whatever it may be, in this kind of situation. We want them to have friends, to have dreams, to have hopes. In my opinion, they do. They do have dreams and hopes, right? But just like anybody else, they want to be independent. They want to live on their own. It's just how do we get them there is going to be the real kicker here, right? We want to make sure that communication is moving forward in an effective manner, and we want some kind of reassurance, excuse me, that we're doing a good job, right? So recently, maybe 4 months ago now, about to be 5, I can't believe it, I had a baby girl. My wife gave birth to our wonderful baby girl. Her name is Erin. And for me now in it, my perspective has changed quite a bit, especially since creating this presentation. That I get the concern, I get the worry, because every day now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is she doing okay? Is everything okay? Is she happy? Is she, doing really well? Does she enjoy everything that's going on here? Thank you so much. And it's the same matter, right? Is that we just started this process, but the world is a scary place, and I want to make sure that she knows that I love her, that I am doing everything that I can, much like each one of you that are here today is, I'm sure, hopeful, and confident in the sense that your kids know that you also are doing everything you possibly can. So we can continue on to the next slide here and focus on what is it that we can do. Well, there's a lot that we can do. Since my mother was able to find information on how to support me as an autistic individual, she had to go through different kinds of books, or talking to friends, or just trying random things, honestly, that would work. But now, in this day and age, things are a bit more organized. Things are a bit more organized in the sense that we have different ways that we are able to support these individuals that may be diagnosed with autism. But these can also work through different kinds of what's called comorbidities, right? Other like ADHD, Down syndrome, other areas such as this. So on the right side of this, you're going to see different kinds of therapy that are available, right? Maybe they may be next to your house. Maybe they're going to be somewhere in the community or in the city. You might have to drive a ways, but the point is that they do exist for us, and it's important to take these in consideration, right? And these can be a number of things. This could be occupational therapy, speech therapy. I've bolded applied behavior analysis therapy because that's my specialty currently as a board certified behavior analyst. But that's going to be primarily be the science of behavior and how we move forward in this. But also music therapy is something that is up and coming. Equestrian therapy is up and coming, where we work with horses. Play therapy is very naturalistic, right? We see this also in a lot of different therapies now, where play therapy was an originator of this idea that we are able to learn while we are playing. But as we have continued to learn as a science, and I can speak primarily for applied behavior analysis therapy, that it has become far more naturalistic. It has become far more generalized to work on these things. But as so science does, so does common misconceptions that we are trying to work through with these individuals that we are working with, right? So on the left side, you're going to see different kinds of red flags to look for. And through my presentation, some of you may have seen this before. I try to be as very transparent as possible. And so I welcome any kind of questions that you may have. But what a lot of the times I see are individuals that think that the left-hand side is exactly what ABA is about. It's creating robots. It's creating individuals that are being told to do certain things and they get in trouble if they don't. This possibly could have been the older form of applied behavior analysis therapy when it first started. But what we are seeing a lot of the times are common misconceptions that are being brought upon typically because of social media growth. We see a lot of individuals speaking on their experiences with ABA therapy, and I always try and stress this in my presentations. These individuals should be honored and respected for their stories because quite truly this probably occurred with them. But what's important here is to understand that by no means is one anecdotal story of one individual a truth or a generalization for all ABA therapy, right? A lot of ABA therapy is going to be different based on the professional you work with. As you can see from me, I have a much different point of view than maybe another kind of behavior analyst or maybe another kind of occupational therapist or speech therapist. I try to really stress to the individuals that we are working with, or the parents that we are working with, that you need to find a individual that best fits your ideas, your beliefs, right? So the example I typically give is going to be, let's say you go to a doctor that doesn't fit your ideals and beliefs. Do you then, as an individual, say, well, I'm going to be turned off from Western medicine the rest of my life? This individual has just like really given me a bad taste in Western medicine. Probably not. What we then at that point say, I don't really agree with this doctor. I'm going to go ahead and Google another doctor, and maybe this will fit my ideals and beliefs. I believe that that same kind of support or ideas should be generalized out to the applied behavior analysis field, where if we find somebody that we don't agree with or necessarily believe they can do what we are asking them to do, find somebody that does, somebody that does believe in you, what you do. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I am aware of that. I'm a very transparent black and white individual, right? That doesn't fit well with everybody, and that's totally okay. I think it's important for us to be able to talk and work together to find some kind of happy middle ground, because at the end of the day, we're all just here to help the kids. But what we don't want to see really is this kind of idea that individuals are going to be taking ABA therapy and focusing on punishment procedures or reducing stimming. That's not what ABA is about. It's about really trying to find a socially appropriate kind of behavior that can be presented in schools, in jobs, different areas like that. If I was spending my entire time, to Allison's point, being maybe non-speaking and just kind of hand flapping and rocking back and forth, I don't think anyone would be more so willing to listen to me if that's all I had to do or say. You're here specifically because you're hoping to gain some kind of information. And so again, just keep in mind, stereotypes are not really everything that goes on. We can go to the next slide here. So this is just a quote that I've once said, and it helps inspire the individuals that I'm working with. It helps inspires the parents. I know it says that it's by me. If anyone wants to take it and say that you did it, I'm cool with it. Go for it. Whatever it may be. But it's just really a matter of fact here, right? Is that the biggest misconception about autism is that it looks a certain way. In reality, autism is a spectrum of hopes, dreams, and a desire to be ourselves. For quite some time, especially growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, I'll be very honest, I was quite ashamed of my autism because growing up at that time, it was more about learning how to fit in, how to be just like everybody else. It was this kind of similarity. It was not like today's standards, where it's people are far more open about what they have for a diagnosis or how they are feeling about certain things. We see a lot of individuals that are focused more on making sure people understand, hey, I have anxiety. This is impacting me. I have depression. I have bipolar disorder, different things like that, right? But what we are wanting to make sure is that people look at autism and understand that it is not what we initially thought of it as in the 90s and 2000s. It's just really a different way of looking at things, right? We still get those stereotypes, unfortunately, of, well, you don't look autistic. And typically I joke around to try and make it a little bit more playful. And then say to them, oh, but do I smell autistic, right? I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. And it's try to lighten the mood. But through my growth, right, I was being bullied until fourth grade. I had individuals that were looking at me and had a difficult way of understanding what I needed to go through, as well as had difficulty dating as well. I had to mask who I was and present myself in a certain way to try and be accepted, if you will, right? But that's also a difficult thing that we really think that our children will go through, but once they have some kind of diagnosis in them, it gets to be far more of a idea that we don't really know if our children are going to participate in this. But in reality, we really should try, because again, we're wanting these individuals to be independent. We want them to be successful. And a part of that is, if they would like to, start to date, start to learn how it is to be around people that you didn't necessarily grow up with, right? We'll also go into further discussions about the unemployability and this current statistics, excuse me, the current statistics that we have seen with stuff like this as well. So we can continue to the next slide. So these are different facts to understand. I won't go through all of them because I know it's a lot to discuss, but it is important to understand that there is about 0.7 to 1.9% of college students that do identify as autistic. And what you're seeing in parentheses here, these are evidence-based research articles that can be searched for and can be found. If not, I'm happy to share these with Allison if she is needing them, if anyone's asking for them. But it's important to also see that only 1.9% of the college students are identifying as autistic. If we look at the CDC guidelines currently, it's going to be 1 in 31 individuals are currently being diagnosed with autism. So this number is far, far lower than what it needs to be. And I think the question we have to ask at this point is why? Why is this occurring? Why is this kind of disclosure being a barrier? And it may very well be, again, these stereotypes are around. And it's something that we have to be mindful of, right? Are we one of the reasons why this stereotype is happening? How can we resolve this? What can we do? As well, but also from a Gordine et al., we talk about diagnoses, right? There is a delayed and provided less often for Black, Latinx, and female children to get this diagnosis. So they may have it, not be able to get the resources, and move forward in such a way. So for me, for instance, right, I am both white as well as Hispanic. We didn't grow up with a lot of money. I think through only the guidance of maybe sheer luck or coincidence, my mother was able to be convinced through my father and my sister as well that, hey, we need to see if something's going on with him. And the doctor was there and said, yes, there is something going on. And it was through this kind of, again, support through family that I was able to get this diagnosis and probably change the entire trajectory of my life without going into full on exaggeration with it, right? Because very easily, if I didn't get this diagnosis and maybe my family assumed that nothing was wrong with me, I wouldn't be where I am today if they had gone that route as well. Yes. So as we look into the unemployability aspect of this, right, we were discussing this, is that in their early 20s, young adults with autism had a far lower rate of employment than peers. And we have to ask ourselves why. I think the difficulty here still is that a lot of jobs are unsure or hesitant about how to work with these individuals that are on the spectrum, how to provide the the different kinds of accommodations that are necessary to support their growth, to support their abilities, right? So, for instance, at Autism International Consulting, we try to hire autistic individuals that are willing or wanting to be a part of this field in the first place, because that's going to be the best way that we can grow this field and ensure that more autistic individuals can see the positivity in working in a field such as this. But then we have to think about the other areas as well, right? We need other individuals to work in certain kinds of departments and things such as that. And that's where everyone here can go into play, right? We can talk with the managers of different jobs. We can be a support system for our children that are feeling down and seeing what is it that we can do. Here again at my company, we'll go to managers of different companies when these individuals that we're working with are looking for a job and say, hey, we can provide the training that you are needing. We can provide updates or check-ins or whatever it may be at really no cost to you, or being able to provide some kind of weekly update with the individual, making sure that they feel supported to ensure that everyone is getting what they are needing, right? Because what we want to see is a much higher percentage of individuals on the spectrum that are able to get work. Why is it that we're seeing maybe intellectual disability or learning disabilities gain so much more work employability than autism, right? It could be possibly the severity, but if we can work through different challenges that a person may have, we can potentially make them a very positive part of the workforce and hopefully get a kind of guidance from others to present this kind of motivation as well and get other employers a part of this too. So what I have here as well, is a YouTube video. Allison, I believe last time we did this, I was able to share my screen with it and start it at the 5-minute mark. So that way people can see it if that still works for you.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. So you guys, what I'm going to do next here is just going to share my screen. So bear with me while I get to that point here, and then that way we can see it. So it's a quick video that I think will be interesting and hopefully a little bit inspiring for everyone here. It's about a young girl that's on the spectrum where a lot of individuals did not believe that she was able to speak, and she was able to really prove that wrong to them and provide that kind of guidance. So here is my video here. Let me share the audio for each one of you as well, and we will go from there.
She started to realize that by communicating, she had power over her environment.
And what came through her finger, typing one letter at a time, with fluency no one could believe, was astonishing.
I am autistic, but that's not who I am. Take time to know me before you judge me. I am cute, funny, and like to have fun.
Through her torrent of words, Carly began to unravel the mysteries behind her often wild behavior. Like banging her head.
Because if I don't, it feels like my body is going to explode. It's just like when you shake a can of Coke. If I could stop it, I would, but it's not like turning a switch off. I know what is right and wrong, but it's like I have a fight with my brain over it.
Use your words.
And Carly was not shy about expressing her desires and frustrations.
I want to be able to go to school with normal kids, but not have them getting upset or scared if I hit a table or scream. I want something that will put out the fire.
We were also horrified because for years we had spoken in front of her as if she wasn't there.
Now, for the first time, Carly was able to have conversations with her parents.
You think you can write back to Dad?
I want to go on a snowmobile. Can we do it? Will you go on one? I think it would be fun.
So here's your daughter, and finally you get to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Overwhelming. Overwhelming. I stopped looking at her as a disabled person.
You promised. Did you lie to me?
And started looking at her as a sort of sassy, mischievous teenage girl.
I want people to know that no one is telling me what to say, and I don't have a hand up my butt like a puppet.
Carly has been very clear that she sees herself as a normal child, locked in a body that does things that she has no control over.
Side by side with her twin sister Taryn, it would be easy to dismiss Carly as intellectually challenged. That is, until you ask her a question.
Carly, why do autistic kids cover their ears, flap their hands, hum, and rock?
It's a way for us to drown out all sensory input that overloads us all at once. We create output to block out input.
Carly's brain, unlike most people's, is overwhelmed by the senses of sight and sound, taste and smell.
Our brains are wired differently. We take in many sounds and conversations at once. I take over 1,000 pictures of a person's face when I look at them. That's why we have a hard time looking at people.
The one thing she can control is when and where she'll type.
So this is John.
This is John.
And usually she needs to be motivated.
Finish up. You're doing great.
When I tried making conversation with Carly, she would not type back,
I'll tell you anything you want to know.
her finger hovering over the keys for hours, until I brought up my teenage son.
He wants to play football.
Now she's smiling. It's going to be something funny.
Are you embarrassed?
Come on, we want to hear what you have to say.
Yes, I guess he's cute.
You know, 2 years that we've been communicating, and every time she writes something, there's a little bit of that sense of awe. The room resembled a ship's cabin. Its walls
Dear
made of
Dad,
wooden laths,
I love when you read to
covered
me,
by many coats
and I
of
love that you believe in me. I know I'm not the easiest kid in the world.
Give me a kiss.
However, you are always there for me, holding my hand and picking me up. I love you.
I'll go through many sleepless nights to hear that. I'll spend every penny we have to hear that.
Was there one writing in particular that left a lump in your throat?
In this writing where she says, "You've never been in my body. I wish for one day you could be in my body."
A year after we first met Carly, she is happier, calmer, more independent.
Come on, let's get this in the pan.
She's even writing a novel.
I think that humankind is just oblivious to things that have been around for many years.
She also has her own internet blog and twitters regularly, answering questions from people all over North America.
I think Carly knows that she now has a voice that can help other kids. Now she looks at herself as someone who can make a mark on the world. And that's gotta be life-changing.
What do you hope for Carly now?
I want her to be happy. I want her to have dreams and goals and accomplish those goals in spite of her challenges.
I think the only thing I can say is don't give up. Your inner voice will find its way out. Mine did.
So with that video, right, I always enjoy speaking with. I think everything is good. Allison, if you'd like to share the screen and then go to the next slide from that one, you certainly can. Perfect. Right. So I think what's going to be important here is understanding that just because, again, this individual has this kind of diagnosis does not mean by any means that this is all they can do. Right. We see from this individual that we were already seeing from the video that it didn't define who she was, and the parents didn't let it define her. And so she was able to move forward. So what we have to consider here is going to be equality, accommodation, and accessibility. Whenever we are working with these individuals, right, considering each employee as an asset, making sure that we are following through with each individual's expertise, right? Just because, again, this person has this diagnosis does not mean that it can be a weakness by any means, right? It could possibly very easily be some kind of strength or ability that can really better work out what is happening around them, right? Everyone is going to have some kind of strength or weakness, and rather than just looking at the diagnosis as whatever it may be stereotypically, this weakness, if you will, or challenge or obstacle, we need to look at it and say, okay, well, what can that happen, right? Maybe they're always on time. Maybe they want to work more. Maybe they want some kind of structure. These are the things that we're typically looking for. But even as family members, employers, whatever it may be, professionals here that are in this audience, we focus on wanting to set up these accommodations. If we can set up the accommodations, then we can probably see a lot of the adverse effects of what someone may be going through dissipate because they feel like they have the support system and the willingness to accomplish whatever needs to get done with the support of that manager, of that individual. A lot of times, again, at my company, I have individuals that have certain concerns, certain kinds of accommodations that are needed, and once those are provided, there's really no other issues here. If we can provide that kind of support to them, we can see a lot of success. And then finally, through our accessibility here, this stigma of autism has to be removed. It has to be something that we are not looking at as a struggle for each individual, right? Sure, there are individuals, I'm not blind to this, that they have very severe functionality needs, right? But we can get to a point where they can accomplish certain independent tasks in the future, right? Whether it be for these severe kinds of functionalities, focusing on can they at least brush their teeth on their own, or can they take a shower on their own, get a bath on their own, starting small, work at little things that we wish that they could possibly do, and then snowball out to bigger issues, bigger concerns, right? Start with maybe something such as brushing your teeth, and then moving into hand washing and otherwise. Allison?
Armando, I'm thinking about meeting them where they are, and we talk about they are where they are. They're not behind. I mean, I think the world teaches us to think that, you know, our kids are behind or whatever. But I think when you turn that off in your brain and you focus on meeting the person first, right, where they are, and celebrating those wins. You know, a win for them may look different than a win for you or a win for your other neurotypical kids or things like that. But it's all a win, and it's all those little baby steps to get to where you took a lot of baby steps, Armando, to be where you are today. And those baby steps led to bigger steps and giant leaps and graduating college. So to me, I think in this day of social media and all these posts and things that people post, and they always post the best things, their lives aren't perfect either, but I think we get caught up in the keeping up with everybody else, and maybe even with other parents who also have kids on the spectrum and things like that. And I say, turn it off. If that upsets you, or if you look at those things and you have your kid in a box comparatively to those things, stop looking at it and start looking at the kid specifically and where they are and meeting them there. And it's crazy how the brain lights up, like how a human being's brain lights up when those little needs are being met. And sometimes, especially when we have nonverbal kids and things, it's really hard because the communication issues are so hard to, and those unmet needs, understanding what those unmet needs are. But I think that that's an important step, as just being okay about it, even if you are behind, but celebrating those wins big. And I've seen a lot of parents, and myself included, like where, we have a win and we celebrate it slightly, but we really don't celebrate it because we're so far behind. We have 10 more things that we need to check off the list, so it's on to the next thing. And I've had to tell myself, don't do that. Like, that's not right. It's wrong. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about a lot of times a good example I give parents is like the potty training aspect. I feel like a lot of parents understand is that they're very quick to say, well, I want my kid to be able to go to the bathroom every 2 hours. Well, we don't start there when you start learning that, right? We take them to the bathroom every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes or something to that, and we start upping it as we continue on. And we then get to that 2 hour mark. People want to get that to the finish line. I think that's fine, but we have to work through there as well. And even to your point, regarding the Instagram or the social media aspect here, we have to remember too that it these little wins, as you would call them as well, may not be to us something that is spectacular or grand, but it is for sure for the individual we're working with. Because for them, they have never done it before. It is a big deal, right? It's the same thing as if like we have a small baby or toddler. So I'll give an example of my own kid, right? Like we think about it like other maybe toddlers or other children. They know how to go from their back or to their stomach or their stomach to their back, whatever it is. My child just learned how to do that. And we made it a big deal. We're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's so amazing. Because for her, she needs that. She needs that kind of reinforcement. And I don't see why anyone should ever stop that after they're a small baby or a toddler. Because if we are able to do something in ourselves that we didn't think we ever could do or that we've never done before, that idea of praise or that kind of support is so important to us. Recently, I learned how to ride a bike. Now, it's been a year or two now, but that's still not the norm of when a person should be able to know how to ride a bike. And I was able to get a lot of praise from my now wife and then also from my family about that, right? But for other people, again, if we have that same mindset we do sometimes with these individuals on the spectrum of saying like, okay, well, we have 10 other things to worry about, I wouldn't have felt the same way. It wouldn't have felt good. But because I did learn how to ride that bike now, that was something exciting for me. And it made me more encouraged to do other things, right? So what we have here, right, is a new change in what the logo is. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy between using a puzzle piece or the infinity symbol or the rainbow infinity, whatever it may be. The point of this, though, right, is to understand where it's coming from. Rather than it being an argument or being argumentative in nature, it's important to just understand that neurodiverse individuals have looked at this kind of infinity symbol as a better approach to variation, a better approach to what they believe their kind of life is, and for us to understand the purpose of it, right? It's this diversity in all brains, not just from an autistic perspective, which this has primarily been adopted by, but just in general. It celebrates the idea that everyone is going to be different, and it's become now this concept and movement, right? It promotes the idea that the social kind of aspect that comes into disabilities can be debated and can be a purpose here where we're focusing more on the individual rather than that diagnosis. Because again, as I've stated a few times now, the diagnosis is not what makes the person, it's what they do after the diagnosis. And so it just promotes this idea that people can be themselves and not have to be a resemblance of their full-on diagnosis. I hope that is making sense for some people as well as we continue to the next slide. So this is something as well to consider as we continue forward here is that there is two different models that we have to go and work through. What we are wanting ideally is the social model. So there's the medical and the social. Medical being I need to be fixed to fit into society. Social model is society needs to change so I can fit in. Now, as we get older as a society, we start to see this. We start to see people more willing to accept differences and changes, and that's absolutely wonderful. That's what we would like to see, right? An example here is the cafe hasn't provided braille or electronic menu options, right? Maybe they are able to do these kind of things, right? But it's important to also understand as individuals and be realists here, is that unfortunately the world is not at a point where it's going to completely change for the individual, and the individual is still needing to change for the world. I'll give an example that I had recently, where I had an individual that I knew, a friend of mine that's from California, and she one time at one point said, when we were in a group study, well, these individuals that are on the spectrum with us, I really feel like people should just accept that they're going to be maybe a bit more blunt or a bit more black and white than people would like, right? But I grew up in Texas, and I understand that this culture here is more about, no, you need to act a certain way in order to do well by the people around you. Otherwise, you're considered rude or inappropriate. So it's a really good kind of division here where we can see how cultures or mindsets can change depending on where you are. But there is also this growth. Like, sure, absolutely. I think that sometimes we need to accept people for where they are, but it's also important to judge the current standard of what social appropriate behavior really is, depending on where you are, and then move forward in that direction to try and do well. Because if I, again, acted in a certain way that was inappropriate, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't be accepted in certain kinds of social circles that I'm currently in. So understanding that's going to be really significant. Allison?
I think another thing is we know what we're exposed to and what you do and how you live. Like, that's what we know. And while there are so many families that are affected by autism, there are many families that they don't know anybody who has autism. There's no one in their family. They haven't lived it. They don't eat, sleep, and breathe that. And so I think that that's where we see so many of the misunderstandings, and with public outbursts and other things, and also even in law enforcement, where law enforcement has developed across the country, not just in Texas, but crisis intervention teams and people that are trained. And I think when you live in it and you eat, sleep, and breathe it, it's your normal, and you think that it's normal for everybody else. And I think that that's where some of the challenges come in.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It turns into too, if we're not willing to be either open-minded or a positive experience for individuals that are not used to this kind of conversation, it's going to turn people off, right? We see that a lot of times, and not to get necessarily political, but we see a lot of individuals that if they are all or nothing thinking, we're not able to change any kind of minds. We're not able to hear a person out, and that's really what we should hopefully see. We should hopefully see individuals that are willing to have open conversations, right? So I may, to Allison's point, live, eat, breathe this kind of material because it's my career, it's my life, it's my livelihood in this kind of situation. But to Allison's point, there are people that have never experienced this, or those people that may have a very negative impact on what ABA is. And so I need to ensure that as an individual that I'm staying open-minded and saying, hey, I hear you. I understand your point of view. I may not necessarily agree with it, and this is why, but this is how I am feeling that we can move forward in this way. And that's how we can really see significant change. And I believe that's also why we've seen significant change in our field as we go into this kind of growth pattern from 1993 all the way to possibly 2033 as we continue on, is that the field itself was able to change thanks to the neurodiversity movement, thanks to individuals that were willing to speak on any kind of challenges and trauma that they had growing up with it. And people heard this and said, hey, we messed up, let us change. I typically also say here that a science remains a science so long as they're willing to change. A science no longer becomes a science when it starts to plateau, and the answer for the individuals that are in that field becomes, well, we've always done this way. I feel like that's one of the most toxic kind of sentences a field can say, because it means that you're not willing to listen to others and move to maybe more advanced kinds of conversations. So in 1993, there were very little resources that were given, very little knowledge as well. At that point in time, the ratio was going to be 1 in 1,000. 1 in 1,000 were able to be diagnosed with autism. And to, again, Allison's point, I think there are a lot of families still that are not aware of what autism is because they weren't able to experience it growing up. but with this diagnosis ratio that is starting to occur from 1 in 1,000 to now in this year 1 in 31. 2023 it was 1 in 36. We are starting to see people more willing to understand what it is and understand what happens. In 2003 we see this acceptance of medical therapy, right? We see this ability for people to say, hey, this is a problem, there is something going on. And we have this big jump from 1 to 1,000 to 1 in 125. And people always ask, like, okay, well, I've heard this stereotype before. Well, is autism really kind of a millennial diagnosis or something that is a new age diagnosis? And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's always been here, but the amount of knowledge and experience that has been given or anecdotal kind of representation of autism has grown, and therefore has allowed more people to recognize themselves within what is being seen with the diagnosis.
And I would just say that what we've seen in our practice is that there are many, 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 many highly successful, highly compensated individuals. They're the engineers of the world at NASA, at Chevron, at big companies, big companies, big engineering jobs, and their age category, it wasn't a thing. We didn't test for autism. But they have emerged and have had a really wonderful, lucrative life and are somewhere on that spectrum. And I know they've changed what they call it and some of the names that they've thrown around through the years. But many, 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 including surgeons, including just highly, highly compensated individuals on the top of the food chain in their careers, have, a lot of them are on the spectrum. So it's a true thing. It's just more and more testing and more, I think more and more understanding. I think then they didn't understand it. And I know I took a class, Texas Partners in Policy Making, and we kind of talked about the evolution of terms and what was a normal term that they threw around for an individual with a disability. We know what it is. I won't even say it. It's not nice. And kind of how it has emerged, like it was just all lumped into one category, and how much they've learned through the years and have changed that to person-centered thinking and all of these other things as opposed to a label. And so it's definitely evolved, but we definitely work with some really awesome folks. So Armando, this is your contact information here, and you are in the greater Houston area. Are you in Katy? Remind me.
No. We're Spring Woodlands primarily.
Spring Woodlands. Okay. But you work with people on Zoom, you work with people in person, and this QR code will take them to your website where they can schedule with you, or what?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
So they can hover their camera over this QR code and can find you. And so in your practice, me being the financial side, I always, ask, about services, because access to services, prices, accepting insurance, do you accept Medicaid? So when it comes to people working with you, with their loved one, what are the doors that they can walk through? Do you accept insurance or Medicaid or waivers or anything like that?
Absolutely. So we accept all insurances, including Medicaid. We take all ages as well, and we find that that's typically not the case for a lot of ABA facilities, unfortunately. So we will take all ages. We work with all insurances. If we do not work with a certain insurance, typically with the different kinds of Medicaids, we are able to support the family in changing out their Medicaid for a different kind that we do work with. Throughout that entire process, we really try to hold their hand the entire time to make sure that they feel supported in order to get the services. Again, because I grew up on Medicaid. We grew up with not being able to gain these kind of resources. So my sister and I never wanted a family to come to us and not be able to gain services simply because of their socioeconomic status. And so we continue to do that. For those that may be further out, right, we do, as I said, do telehealth. Sometimes we can get insurance to reimburse that. If not, we do have a self-pay rate that's by the hour that we're able to work with parents individually as well.
I love that. And there's so many places out there that there is a barrier to services because they don't accept insurance or various insurances, or they only accept a few. So I love that and that's a lot of work on you and your team's part to do that. So thanks for going the extra mile to do that. A lot of practices don't accept insurance because working with the insurance companies is a nightmare. You almost need a whole team for it, unfortunately, sometimes. But so I'm glad that you guys have taken the effort to do that, and that is definitely going to make a difference for the families that are working with you. And you know, one of the things that I think about when I think about you and your practice is the word holistic, and that is the word that we commonly use with Consolidated Planning Group, a holistic approach to planning. And you have a holistic approach to life, to where are we, where do we need to go, and what steps do we need to take to, you know, to get where we're going. And it's the whole person, and it's very specifically tailored to that specific individual, and that is similar to us and our services, and that are tailored to specific, you know, families and their needs. So I love that. Guys, we always share the things to keep on your special needs planning radar. We have webinars on basically all of these topics, and we will have upcoming webinars. Past webinars are on the Consolidated Planning Group YouTube channel. Texas waivers and interest lists, taking a deep dive in SSI, SSDI, understanding the differences, knowing when and how to apply. ABLE accounts, special needs trust, guardianship, housing, post-high school education options, you name it. We've got topics on that. And we have partnered with other professionals that are very, very knowledgeable about this, so you won't want to miss those webinars. And that'll be this link here. Everybody's going to get a copy of today's recording, and a link to the recording and a copy of the slides. And this will have our upcoming webinars that you can register for in the future. And as I mentioned in the beginning, Consolidated Planning Group, we always offer free personalized consultations. We want to learn a little bit more about you and your family. Some people come to us and they have done a ton of planning. Maybe they already have a special needs trust in place. Maybe they have guardianship in place. Maybe they've been working with an advisor that doesn't have any background in special needs and they need a second opinion. Some people come and they say, you know, we would be embarrassed for you to know what we haven't done. And then some people have started and they put it on the shelf and they need to pick back up where they left off. And so the first thing I always say, don't beat yourself up about what you haven't done. You're here today. We can help you, and we can meet you where you are on the planning trail, whether you've done a lot, a little, or you just need to get started. We can help you. We can help align your steps and show you where you need to be. So this QR code on the screen is going to take you to our calendar where you can schedule your free 45-minute consultation. We work on a collaborative team here at CPG. During that consultation, we're going to learn more about your family, kind of what brings you to the meeting, and we're going to share more about CPG and the doors that you can walk through with us. So it has certainly been my pleasure once again being here with you, Armando. Awesome. It's so encouraging. I feel so excited after you present every time, and it's always wonderful to be back with Hope for Three. So I hope for everybody that's attended today, I hope you feel encouraged. And just know, whether it's a baby step or a giant leap or wherever you are, you can get where you're going. And so you're just so encouraging. So thanks, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, and be on the lookout for the email with the slides and the recording. I just wanted to say that sometimes it goes to spam. So if you didn't get it by tomorrow, check your spam. It'll be there either later today or early tomorrow. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
Bye
y'all.
now.
Bye-bye.